Today I'm going to be talking about the 5 things I incorporate into every journal page, and this page right here is the one we'll be creating today, and this is part of my journal series where I'm creating unbound pages, and then I'm going to put them together into one big journal. So I'm glad you're here, and let's get started. So I'm starting off with one of the pages that I created a couple months ago in a video where I created the foundation for a bunch of journal pages, and I will link that here above and also down below in the notes if you want to catch that. But I basically did a large quantity of just basic journal pages in hopes that I would go back and do what I'm doing now and just add to the pages. So here we go. I know I'm going to be wanting to add text to this page. So what I have done in the green post-it note here was I wrote out the text that I want to write. And if you look back at my other journals, and this is something I do in all my pages, is I have some areas where there's smaller text and then some areas where there's larger, more bold text. And I find a balance between creating a lot of words and just a couple little words because I feel like it kind of moves the eye around. It's intriguing. So that's one thing that I found works really well with my style, is to incorporate different sizes of text and different styles of text. So you kind of find this balance between the two. And I'm going to be writing on tissue paper today. This is something that I do a lot, and I will also include a link to videos where I talk about how I go about this and how it all works. But I basically just have a little piece of tissue paper here that I'm taping down with washi tape so it stays somewhat steady. And as mentioned on this green post-it note, sometimes thoughts come to me when I'm out and about or working on other projects, and I just want to be able to write them down because I know I'll circle back to them or want to incorporate them into my journal. So that's the case here, where I was working on something and I just had this thought, and so I wrote that down, and I'm going to incorporate that into my journal. So it's just a reminder that you don't have to, when you sit down to create, you don't have to think of everything right in that moment. There can be layers and thoughts and things along the way that you're holding on to until you have that time to sit down and create. And just another reason I'm a very big advocate in keeping a journal with you all the time, or some post-it notes, or just something to write with, because you just never know when, deep, profound, or just interesting thoughts will come your way. So record them when you can, and then when you have a moment, go make some amazing artwork with it. So I am just using a standard pen. This is a pen from Muji, one of my favorite black pens. You don't have to use anything fancy here. Just anything that can write on that tracing paper is good. And I am just writing my thoughts here. It says, I often feel so stuck in my head, so locked down and blocked. But then small moments of hope and bravery and confidence happen, and I feel so alive and able to do the things I've dreamed of. I have to hold on to these bits of pure knowing so I can ride the wave of doubt and fear and stuckness. I really can do it. Just have to believe that I can, over and over again. So this page in particular is just about those times of feeling stuck and those doubts that come in. And as creatives, we feel those things a lot. And sometimes it's just a matter of not having the time or the space to work or to create, that we kind of just get kind of down on ourselves. So this is just a little reminder that those little glimpses of hope or excitement or inspiration that you get, like, hold on to those and lean into them, because those are what will push you forward through the doubts and the fears. And just really having to believe in ourselves. It's always wonderful to have a support system that also believes in us as well. But at the end of the day, it's really about us believing in ourselves and what we can do. So that's what I was kind of trying to think about and write out here. So talking through the 5 things that I use in every journal page. So the first thing is always having some underlayers. And again, this is maybe more towards the style that I like to create in, but always have these like squiggles or paint marks or lines or whatever, just as your base layer. So you can see that here on the left. This is my base, my foundation for this particular journal page. So just having some kind of movement already, then you can build upon that. And it's so easy to do. I mean, it takes like 2 seconds to make some squiggles onto a piece of paper. So and then the second thing is to, as I mentioned, incorporate different types of text. You can do some little text with some big text. You'll see here that I am going to incorporate some magazine clippings and some rub-on letters, but it just kind of keeps the page looking interesting and intriguing. And then also, if you're one of those people that can kind of write in different styles, cursive and straight and very modern and all of those different things, like utilize those and have fun with them, experiment with them, and don't be afraid to mix different styles within one journal page. I also, most of my pages that I create are on a little bit of a thicker paper, whether that's watercolor or cardstock. And that just allows me to add these layers, the layers of paper, the layers of paint, without the page warping. It just kind of holds it a little better. So the next thing that I incorporate into most all of my journal pages is some sort of outlining situation. So you see that I'm doing this with the text that I just wrote here. I'm outlining it in a very not perfect, not perfectly straight kind of way. This has just kind of been my style over time that has evolved, and I personally really enjoy it. When someone looks at the page, it just gives them something to kind of zero in on because it's circled or there's a square around it or whatever. And it just, for me, it just adds another little fun layer of intrigue and I guess a design element. And I tend to do this thing like I'm doing right here with lines. I call it like a little ladder. I make little ladders everywhere, little squiggle marks. And I don't know, it's just my thing, but it is something that I tend to do in almost every journal page, whether I do it around text or on the outside of my completed journal, which I will do on this piece here in a minute. Just adding a little frame around what you wrote or created can add just a really nice touch to your pieces. All right, so now I'm just trimming down that tissue paper and eyeballing where I'm going to lay it. Also thinking through if I have a larger word somewhere where I want that. And before I glue anything down, I am feeling the need to add some more layers to this piece just to get a little more background into this space. So I'm going to use some of the collage pages that I just created. This is part of my free collage starter kit, which you can get. I will link that below. Absolutely free. You get 10 pages of just black and white designs that you can incorporate into your collage pieces and artwork. And this has just been so fun to play with because I find myself using these pages all the time. So I'm really hoping it's something that you guys can utilize. I've been getting some really good feedback from you all. So yeah, the link is below. Go ahead and sign up and you'll get these 10 pages for free and you can print them just on your printer at home. It's super easy. But yeah, so you'll see that just by adding some black and white lines or designs to this journal page, it's gonna start giving it a little bit of structure and movement. And that's what I go for in everything that I create, but it's specifically in these journal pages and in my paintings and that kind of thing. I want a little bit of structure mixed in with that abstract movement because I just think that looks just more interesting, and you'd be surprised just with a few layers how much more depth a piece can look. So go for it. You can see that these journal pages I just ripped. You can use scissors, you can rip them. You don't have to be too exact about them. And I am just gluing them down with a regular Elmer's glue stick because it's easy and cheap and it's effective as well. So there's really no right or wrong with creating these journal pages. And that's just another tip that I like to use in all of my journal pages, is that nothing has to be perfect and nothing is permanent. You can switch things around if you're not feeling it. You can add more layers. And the beauty of it is that you don't want it to be perfect either. Like, you want the imperfections and the flaws and the messy parts, because that's more reflective of life and reality. So that's just another tip, is to not worry about making it perfect. Just have fun in the process. If you're not having fun, make a change, use something else. But yeah, explore and see where it leads you, and it just doesn't have to be perfect. So this is another example of how I like to outline things Earlier, I did it on the tissue paper where I outlined the text, and now I'm going around the outside of my journal page. And you will see this pretty consistently with all my journal pages. There's something about giving attention to the outer edges of my pieces that I think is just very, very important. We often pay so much attention to the middle parts and don't forget about the corners and the outside bits. And I think all of those outlining and framing of things just gives more, just draws the eye closer to the center of the piece anyway. So it's all important. It all works together. And this is just, my style of doing things. You, of course, will have your own style and explore that. I would love to hear about it. I would love to hear how your journal pages are going, or if you're feeling stuck in any way, or you're a little nervous about trying something new. Let me know how it's going for you. Are you creating an unbound journal as well, or do you work in a notebook? Or fill me in on where you guys are at. And if there's anything that I can help you with, any tips or tricks or any more bits of information that I can share with you, just always, feel free to comment or email. So after I go around, so I just use some markers here to color the outside of the journal, but now I'm going back with just this black pen again, just to add some more fine details. So again, it's always this balance of the big marks and the big bright parts of my pieces, but also these little bits of lines and scribbles and that kind of thing that you can incorporate. So you can start to see it's all starting to come together a little bit. You can see my little bits of Katie-ness in this piece, the movement, the brighter colors and that kind of thing. It's starting to happen. And now it's a point where I just want to integrate a little more, a couple more elements. So I'm pulling some of my washi tape that I got when we were in Japan recently, because I just have not been able to use enough of this. I love it so much. So just adding some of this, and it's really cool how washi tape is, I don't know, washi tape can kind of be crafty, but I feel like incorporated into this type of setting is just really cool. I really am enjoying it, and it works well, especially these real colorful tapes really work well with my designs and my journal pages. So bring it on. I just love using different materials on these journal pages because you really can't go wrong. Whatever you have on hand, you can utilize that. So I'm thinking that looks like a good place for this text. And then I'm just noticing I want to highlight a couple of the words that I've written down. So I'm going back with my pencil. Using a pencil is something I also use quite a bit in these journals. I love the look of the pencil. It's not quite so bright and vivid. It just kind of is an undertone. And yeah, I just really enjoy using pencils. So I had a thought as I was writing the text down that I really want to make a larger word that says believe, because that's kind of the underlining theme with this page. So I'm pulling out some of my old rub-on letters, and I tell you, sometimes these things rub on really well, no problems, and sometimes they don't. So I'm just gonna see how this goes here. I might have to pivot if it doesn't work, but there's only one way to try, or there's only one way to find out, and that is to try. So gonna give this a go here. Let me just see if it's gonna pull up. Nope, absolutely nothing. Some of these are so old that they will not rub off. So I'm gonna try this one as well. And if anyone has access to rub-on letters or knows where to purchase them, I think it's something that they don't really make anymore. So please let me know, because these are something I love. I have a lot of them on hand just because my mother was a college professor and she had a bunch of these and gave them to me. But I would love to buy some new ones that actually rub on. So I'm going to try this page now. This is actually a Q, but upside down, it's a B. So perfect. And this sheet in particular, I know works a little bit better for the rub on. So I think this one will work. Okay, it's pretty good. It's okay if it's not perfect. Try again with an E. The trick is to rub every little part of it down. It's just sometimes hard. Let's see here. Okay, nope, not gonna work. So this is where we pivot. We try something else. Let's see if this one will work. But this is what I'm talking about. It's nice to have some different type of text rather than just handwriting everywhere, even though that can be lovely as well. But my personal style is to kind of mix it up a little bit. So I'm going to set these rub-on letters aside because clearly it's not working out. And this is just one of those honest things that happens when you're making artwork that I want you guys to see, that it's not all always scripted and perfected before we get going here. So what I'm doing is pulling out some just magazines that I've had on hand that I will try to find letters for. So I'm going to go ahead and speed up the video because this takes a little bit of time to find all the letters, and then I will meet you back here in a second. All right, here we go. So I got all my letters and I just laid them down there, and now I'm gonna start gluing the text with the tissue paper down, again, just with my Elmer's glue stick. And you'll be amazed, I love this method. How when you adhere this tissue paper down, you have to be a little careful because it's real thin, but the colors underneath will come through. It's just a really great way to write out your text and not worry about messing up the whole page, because if you did mess up, you can just use another sheet. So yeah, I really encourage you, if this is new to you, is check out that video that I have linked below where I go through how I use this. So I'm kind of feeling like there's this space above the word believe here that I feel like something needs to be there. It just looks a little empty to me. So I'm gonna kind of figure out what I want to put there. Pulling from this bin up on the top left corner of the video here is my collage paper bin. So I just have a bunch of different papers in there that I keep. And so I just pulled from that. Just writing, "You got this." See how that feels on there. And you see here I'm cutting it. Sometimes I like a mix of torn pieces and more refined cut pieces. I kind of like mixing that up. I mean, that looks okay, but I don't know that I love it. It doesn't quite mesh as much as I'd hope with the other parts of the journal, so I'm just gonna set it aside for a second. Glue these letters down, and then I'll revisit that. And it's hard to describe, but you know when you're creating something, especially something that comes from your heart and something that means a lot to you, you kind of know if something's not feeling right, and don't force it. If using a certain color or a certain style isn't quite vibing with you, just put it to the side for a little bit and maybe something else will come, a different idea. So this is another example of using the tissue paper where I just painted on top of it a while back, and I had this in my paper bin here. But here too, you can add this fun color without having to put wet paint onto your journal. And then anywhere where it's not painted will just be clear. So just that little bit of hot pink there just really makes that believe word pop. Those are the kinds of tricks that I like to use in my journals and in just my collage pieces in general. Is it looks more complicated than it really is. And again, I'm not using anything fancy, anything expensive here, so you can really use what you have on hand. So I'm going to be brave, and I think I'm going to write directly onto my journal page here because a thought has come to me that I think would be nice to have incorporated. And it says, at the end of the day, we have to believe in ourselves the most. And that just goes along the lines of what I said earlier, where it's great to have a support system and necessary, but at the end of the day, we have to believe in ourselves and believe we can do it. No one else can do it for us. Everyone else has their own thing going on, so you just really got to believe in yourself and remind yourself that you can do it. And again, I'm highlighting this with a little circle with pencil just to bring a little more attention to it. So you can see how I had it before, and this I think just is incorporated a lot better. It looks a lot more natural on this piece. So then I just go around. This is usually like the last thing I'll do on my journal pages is to go around with a pencil and just add some more scribbles, especially around the outside. I just think pencil adds a bit of a worn look to it, or just not quite so clean. It just, I don't know. I just like adding details with pencil, especially a mechanical pencil, because it's real thin and I can get into the details quite a bit. And some of these things I fully realize no one may notice, but they're important to me, so I put them in there. And then with that pencil, which is a little lighter and more delicate, then I add some dark, bold Sharpie marker. And again, it's all about that balance. And I'm just kind of, as I look at a piece, whether it's a journal page or a piece of artwork, like I just really, I tune into myself and feel what feels balanced and what feels good. And that's what I encourage you to do as well. Just be in tune with how you're feeling when you're creating. All right, and this page is looking pretty darn close to being done. I'm just gonna add, I had these stencils laying around. I thought that would be fun to incorporate in there. So I'm just gonna add some circles using the stencils. Again, now I'm mixing a little bit of like the perfect circle with a lot of the imperfection. So it's another one of those yin yang things where I'm just trying to get that balance. So to recap on the 5 things that I incorporate into all my journal pages and most of my artwork as well is having plenty of layers underneath what you're going to create. So whether that's just paint smeared or just some scribbles, use those layers as added depth to your pieces, added intrigue. It's always important. Second is to incorporate different types of text, different sizes of text, different boldness. It just makes the piece look more interesting and will make people want to kind of move their eye around. Another thing is to use some thicker paper, especially when you're creating an art journal. It just allows all the layers to lay a little flatter and your piece to hold up a little better. And then incorporate some outlines, like outline some of the text, outline some of the important things that you want people to see. And it can be a messy outline like I'd use here. But those are just little bits of details that I like to incorporate when I'm adding my text in particular. And then also, finally, most importantly, is to just not go for perfection here. Go for real, go for messy, go for gritty, and just make it connected to you. Nothing has to be perfect here, and nothing has to be final. So have fun with it. Like I always say, it's about the journey, not the final product. So here we go. This is it. This is where I'm gonna leave it for now. I'm really happy with this, and I think it's gonna be a great part of my journal as a whole. And so thank you all for joining. And if you haven't already, please subscribe, and I will see you back here soon. Cheers, everyone.